Howdy, folks. I'm the Reddit Trash Panda,
I'm Amber.
and here's some tasty, slightly spoiled Reddit. Tastes like mold. Alright, folks, our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Serving My Family Food from the Trash? That's right, folks, it's time. It's time to play the George Costanza card. For context, my sister and I grew up relatively poor. When I was 6, our mom took a promotion and moved 3 hours away. We found out in our adult life that she had been hoarding her money and giving our alcoholic father a small allowance to raise us. With his addiction problems, it left us minimal money for essentials. By the time that I was 16, we were technically on our own and were ransacking dumpsters to feed myself and my sister. Now I'm in my late 30s and I have a successful career and I live quite comfortably. My sister is also well off now. My wife and I have a great relationship and I've worked to stop some of my old habits from my upbringing. Some of my penny pitching techniques my wife graciously ignores and lets me save our money where I can. However, there's one issue we will always find that we can't find a compromise on. I can't handle when food is thrown out. Our daughter, 12, wanted chicken last year. That ended up being a good idea since our table scraps would go to them instead of being wasted in the trash. For the record, I hate when my wife shops at Costco. She buys too much for our family, which creates a lot of waste. I've asked her to at least donate what we don't eat or give it to me so I can drop it off at the homeless camp near my job. She promised to just buy less quantity, but it didn't last because she doesn't like grocery shopping more than once a week. Well, last week I came home and I found a sealed pack of lettuce, one whole cucumber, and an entire loaf of bread and potatoes in the trash can outside. The lettuce was expired, but it looked fine. The bread was also expired and it had no mold. The potatoes had eyes, but weren't green or rotten yet. I went inside and I started on dinner. I grilled the chicken, which was the only item not from the trash. I made a salad and added the cucumber, used the bread to make our croutons, and finally I made mashed potatoes. We all sat down to eat, and my wife mentioned how great the food was. I told her that it was what she had thrown out earlier that day. She was completely mortified and grossed out. I told her that I washed everything off before cooking it, but she said that didn't matter. My point was that if the food was good enough for us to eat, then it should not have been thrown away. At bare minimum, she could have given it to our daughter to take to the chickens. She argued back that I should have at least taken it from the trash and taken it to the chickens, not to our table. She was irritated with me, fearing that we would all have food poisoning or something. But none of us got sick from the food. She said regardless that it was wrong for me to prove a point in that manner and it was borderline abuse to serve the family food from the trash. I don't really see what I did was wrong. There are starving people in this world, and for us to throw out perfectly fine food just doesn't sit right with me. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Yeah, I think you're being a jerk for serving your family food from the trash. If there's other gross stuff in the trash, like even if you wash it, that's not a guarantee it's going to get all the bacteria off it. And some of that stuff you didn't even cook, like the cucumbers, you just put straight into or
Yeah,
lettuce, you put just straight into the salad.
it depends. Like, if the cucumbers were wrapped in plastic and put in the trash, that might be a little bit different, or the lettuce for that matter. But again, I agree with you for the most part here that, like, taking food straight out of the trash and just washing it off isn't necessarily going to be the best idea.
And like even if everything was perfectly packaged and there was no issue of potential food poisoning, you're still taking people's ability away because a lot of people have aversions to eating out of the trash. If you told me
hmm
something came from the trash, I am going to feel very upset and sick. You're taking away like your family's autonomy, their choice in what they consume.
Yeah, I mean, I think this needs to be one of those things where you're aware of what you're doing and it needs to be up to that person and not to just kind of like foist it on them. And sometimes mold doesn't show up. Potatoes, for instance, those are a little tricky because you don't want old potatoes, and certainly like if they start sprouting eyes, that's fine generally, but if they actually get like very big eye stalks, then that's certainly not an okay. It depends. Like again, like you don't want green potatoes, you don't want soft potatoes. So if this was like a week old potatoes, then certainly that's like more than wasteful. So I do think the wife also is problematic here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the food waste is an issue and that your wife isn't taking your concerns seriously there. Like, I definitely think that that is a problem,
Yeah.
and you've tried talking to her and it hasn't worked. So, probably the next step would be some type of marriage counseling or something like that because you need to get on the same page about how you handle food.
Yeah, I don't actually object to OP's philosophy of not wasting food,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that if the wife is wasting a lot of food, that is actually very problematic, and that does create a lot of waste. At least feed it to the chickens.
Right.
Don't just throw food out if you have an alternate means, or compost it. If you have chickens, then you must be able to compost as well. So it just seems like there's a lot of options here that she isn't exploring.
Yeah, so, and again, like you tried talking to your wife and she's been unreceptive and she is doing something that bothers you deeply, and that is an issue. So I'm not letting her off the hook for that,
Yeah.
but the feeding your family trash thing is just like so gross to me. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's not it's poor form. It's poor form, and
mm-hmm,
I'm like certainly understand OP's background here. They got over that aversion a long time ago, but none of the rest of the family has had that opportunity to get over that aversion. Like you had to do this to survive, and that puts you in a little bit different of a mind frame than the other people in the family. And so I don't really necessarily like feel like bringing them like the hammer of judgment like absolutely on OP, because they went through some very traumatic things as a child and they did what they had to do to survive, and this was one of those things. So I can actually really understand why they would think why this would be so rationalized in their mind about
mm-hmm.
being, oh, I mean, I just pulled it out of the trash, it was all perfectly fine. Like, oh, this is just what I used to do as a child to survive. So yeah, I would have a really hard time faulting OP, but it does sound like marriage counseling and individual counseling and working on some of these things would be a really good place to go from here.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, take care and good luck, OP. And Rampa45 says, maybe a little underhanded, but I also grew up poor and this would not have fazed me at all. And OP replies, well, I mean, it was our own personal trash can. It was right on top. It wasn't touching anything gross. And we don't have any pets aside from chickens, so their manure is used around the yard. Not like there was anything gross there, so you be the judge. And Hard Raisin Falling says, info, were you actually concerned about food waste or did you just want to stick it to your wife? You say that it should have been fed to the chickens rather than been thrown out, but that's not what you did, is it? And OP replies, no, I just wanted her to see because it said it was expired. It was actually still fine. So I think with that little bit of additional information, that does put it into a little bit of a different light for me, where OP's like, oh, well, I just want to prove to her that it's still fine.
That actually makes it worse for me, though,
Yeah.
because it's,
Well, that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
yeah.
That, like, because I don't eat food once it's past its expiration date. It's just like, and I know a lot of times they're used by dates, it's still fine, but because of my anxiety and fear of food poisoning, it's just like a no-go for me. And so if you're tampering with someone's sense of safety, I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, I can certainly, like, if I feel like something isn't, I don't want to take my chances on something. Like, I certainly don't like wasting food, but if I feel like there's a potential I might get sick, I would rather not take that chance and get sick, right?
Right. And I mean, all of it, like, if it was long shelf life food, like pasta or
Oh,
something like
yeah,
that, it
yeah.
might be a little different. Like, still, if the wife doesn't want to eat it, don't feed it to her. But, like, that was all fresh stuff, so.
Yeah. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Causing a Scene at My Surprise Birthday Party? Hello, I'm a 34-year-old male, and my girlfriend is a 28-year-old. Yesterday it was my birthday, and my girlfriend threw me a surprise birthday party and invited all of our close friends. There were probably 20 people there, and it was hosted at our apartment. So at some point in time, she pulls me towards the dining room table to open presents. One of the presents was something that I always wanted, a gaming laptop. The specs were so insane that she probably dropped $2,500 plus on it. When I pulled her aside to our bedroom and asked her how much she spent on it, she said, "Don't worry about it, honey. I love you and I want you to be happy." But I wasn't going to go for it, and I thought she was trying to show me up in front of all of our friends. When she tried to kiss me, I pushed her away and said, "Why do you always try to flex your money on me?" So we got into a huge shouting match in front of all of our friends, and I finally left. I got a text from her this morning asking if we could talk, and I haven't replied to her because I don't know what I should say. It's important to note that I don't make a lot of money and I grew up poor, and she grew up with money and it makes a lot more because she's a doctor. Reddit, am I the jerk because I ruined everything for everyone involved? Or ruined the evening. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not a jerk?
Yes, you're the jerk. Now, it would be one thing, like, I understand being uncomfortable about receiving big gifts, but the appropriate thing to do is just say thank you for the time being and then have a conversation afterward.
Yeah. I think that that's really what was missing here is they needed to just accept the gift at that point in time and then talk to them about their insecurities.
Yeah, and that's the big issue here is that you immediately went, like, I think therapy is in order because your
Massive therapy.
if your immediate thought when your partner does something kind for you is you're trying to one up me, you're trying to throw your money at me, like,
Yeah.
that is a sign that something is not working well either in you or your relationship. And everything you write about her in the post, it does sound like she's genuinely being considerate and trying to treat you, which means probably you have some things to work on from your childhood.
You're taking this out on the wrong person,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's your ally, she's your friend, she's not your adversary, and you have to treat relationships like you two are on the same team. And again, this isn't teamwork here. This is you yelling at her for doing a nice thing for you. And I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of accumulated behavior would cause you two to break up. And I don't know, this would probably be a deal breaker for me personally. So if she's still trying to take you back after all this, I mean, you're very lucky. That's kind of what I would have to say.
She's probably not trying to pull a fast one on you or wave her money around.
Yeah. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, our next letter is titled, "Am I a jerk for telling my sister that I won't attend her wedding since my husband won't attend due to a no alcohol rule? My younger sister is getting married soon. My husband and I received an invitation and learned that there won't be any alcohol served at the wedding. My husband, let's say, wasn't too thrilled with this and asked if I could talk to my sister and see if she would be willing to make an exception for him since he hates going to loud events with no alcohol. I talked to her and she refused his request. He said that he won't come, which freaked me out. I called her and told her about his decision, but she acted so casually about it and said, as he likes. I told her that it wouldn't be a big deal if she said yes to the request, but she flipped on me saying that we know how her fiance is a former alcoholic and doesn't want this substance anywhere near him on his big day. My husband chimed in and said, if homeboy is scared of having alcohol nearby, then he's not mature enough for marriage. My sister got into a fight with him and told him that it's her fiance's wedding. My husband said, well, okay, cool, no pressure, and decided not to go. I decided not to go as well. My sister got upset and said that I was being unfair to be willing to miss her wedding for no good reason. Our parents got in the middle and scolded me for my decision and said that my sister won't forget if I miss her wedding over this. All right, folks, what do you think?
Yes, you're definitely a jerk here. OP, your sister has an entirely valid reason for not having alcohol at her wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like your partner probably has a substance use disorder if he needs alcohol to function at events.
Yeah, this doesn't give me warm fuzzies.
Like, if it's an anxiety thing, there are other ways of treating your social anxiety, and he needs to find a healthier coping mechanism, so therapy. But if he has to have alcohol specifically, that's probably a substance use disorder, and also counseling may help him.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how prevalent this is for him and why he needs this substance to get through these evenings. But it certainly sounds like it smacks of substance abuse disorder. So I certainly think that this is concerning, and that OP should at least investigate this and, reflect on whether or not he does have a drinking problem. So
Yeah, and whatever goes on with him, like, there's no reason not to attend your sister's wedding. And you have to understand, her fiance is not being immature by not wanting to be exposed to a substance that he has, issues with, because this is a medical condition.
yeah, yeah,
People don't choose to become addicted to things. It's not an active thing. And so your partner was really, really mean when he was like, oh, well, if you're not mature enough to be around alcohol, you're not mature enough to be married. Like, that's not a reasonable thing, and you and your partner really need to
yeah,
apologize.
yeah. I really think that they need to do a lot of self-reflection here about why they're choosing alcohol over a wedding and a celebration. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber's got a joke from a dinosaur book.
I thought about becoming a witch, so I tried it for a spell.
Yeah, I guess that works.
I'm in the pun section
Yeah,
now, so.
that's what it seems like. These are all very punny. Is this did we make it through all the starting jokes?
I flip around through the book
Oh, okay.
randomly, so I just decided, I was looking at the table of contents and I was like, we need a good pun today.
So there's your pun. Make sure to share it with everyone. And I've got Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you're all having a great Monday.
What would one of your morals be?
So I think my moral of the story for today would be, don't serve people food from the trash.
Oh yeah, that's a great moral.
So I mean, that's kind of my take on it. Like, if you have the urge to pick food out of the trash and give it to people, don't.
And I mean, if you can afford therapy, probably go to therapy.
I mean, unless they're in a desperate situation, in which case,
Right.
desperate times call for desperate measures, and do whatever you need to do to survive.
Yeah, but like, if you have the resources, don't unknowingly feed people garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.